July 5th, 1943, 0430 hours. The eastern horizon over the Kursk salient glows a dull copper, the first hint of a summer dawn that will soon burn white-hot. 2,000 T-34 tanks, more than the entire German armored strength on the Western Front, sit motionless in their assembly areas north and south of the Bulge, engines idling low, exhaust curling like ghosts above the wheat. Their crews have been awake all night, checking tracks, loading 76mm shells, wiping condensation from periscopes. No one speaks above a whisper. Across the thin strip of no man's land, German sentries in the 6th Panzer Division's forward outposts stamp their feet against the pre-dawn chill and wonder why the usual morning birdsong has gone quiet. 40 kilometers to the west, in a command dugout near Belgorod, General Oberst Hermann Hoth, commander of the 4th Panzer Army, studies the latest Luftwaffe reconnaissance photographs under a green-shaded lamp. The images show nothing but empty fields and faint track marks in the grass. His intelligence officer, Oberstleutnant von Below, taps the table. "Soviet armor is still in reserve, Herr General. The T-34s we have seen are worn-out 1941 models, thin armor, unreliable engines, nothing our new Tigers and Panthers cannot handle." Hoth nods, satisfied. 2 years earlier, in June 1941, the first encounters with the T-34 had been a shock. Sloped armor that turned 50mm rounds like raindrops, wide tracks that laughed at mud, a diesel engine that refused to burn when hit. Panzer crews had radioed back frantic reports. "The Tommy cooker is nothing compared to this," and Guderian himself had demanded copies. But by the spring of 1943, the German armorer's verdict was unanimous. The Red Army had lost the ability to produce the tank in serious numbers. Quality had collapsed. Crew training was abysmal. The T-34 was yesterday's terror. The German plan for Operation Citadel reflects that confidence. 900 brand-new Panthers, 45-ton monsters with high-velocity 75mm guns and thick frontal plates sloped like the T-34 itself, roll off the trains at Kharkov, their crews still wearing factory grease on their hands. 88 Tigers, each one a mobile fortress, lead the spearheads. The veteran Grossdeutschland Division alone fields more new armor than the Soviets have managed to rebuild in 6 months, or so Berlin believes. On July 4, as the final orders go out, a young lieutenant in the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich writes home, "Tomorrow we end the war in the East. The Russians have nothing left that can stop us." 0450. The silence ends. From the Prokhorovka sector in the south to the hills around Punieri in the north, the ground trembles as if the earth itself has taken a breath. 2,000 diesel engines roar at once. Headlights snap on across a 70-kilometer front, turning the dawn into a wall of white fire. The first wave of T-34s, many still wearing the fresh green paint of the factories at Nizhny Tagil and Chelyabinsk, lurch forward through morning mist so thick that drivers can barely see the tank in front of them. Behind them come the heavier KV-1s, then the Su-85s and Su-152s, then another wave of T-34s. The 5th Guard Tank Army alone has massed almost 800 machines on a front barely 12 kilometers wide. German forward observers reach for their field telephones, voices cracking. "Achtung! Panzer! Panzer! Everywhere Panzer!" At 0515, the leading companies of the 3rd Panzer Division, advancing south of Orel, crest a low rise expecting the usual scattered resistance. Instead, they run straight into the 2nd Guards Tank Corps. 50 T-34s appear out of the mist at less than 600 meters, turrets already transversing. The German commander, Oberst Westhoffen, has exactly 4 seconds to realize that the intelligence summaries were wrong before the first Soviet salvo crashes down. 76mm shells slam into the thin side armor of Panzer IIIs and early Panzer IVs like sledgehammers. Turrets fly 20 meters through the air. Within minutes, the entire forward battalion is burning. You can almost hear the disbelief crackling across the German radio nets. They have hundreds, no, thousands. Where did they get them all? Veteran tank aces who survived Barbarossa and the winter of '41 find themselves facing T-34s that no longer charge blindly, but advance in disciplined bounds, using terrain, supporting each other with fire. The new models, the T-34/85 is still months away, but even the up-armored 1943 versions with hexagonal turrets and commander cupolas shrug off 50mm hits that would have gutted the 1941 versions. More terrifying still, the crews inside are no longer the panicked conscripts of 2 years ago. These men have trained for months behind the Volga. They know their machines. By noon on the first day, the German Northern Pincer, Army Group Center's 9th Army under Model, has advanced barely 10 kilometers and lost over 200 tanks, most to massed T-34 counterattacks around Ponieri Station. In the south, Hoth's 4th Panzer Army smashes deeper, but every kilometer costs blood. At the little village of Butovo, elements of the Leibstandard Adolf Hitler run into the 18th Tank Corps. SS Rottenführer Paul Schulz, driver of a brand new Panther still wearing its delivery number, watches in stunned silence as 30 T-34s burst from a sunflower field on his flank and cross the open ground at 45 kilometers an hour, guns firing on the move. The Panther's long 75 knocks out 4 before a T-34 rams it broadside at full speed, tracks screaming, and wedges the turret so solidly that the crew bails out under machine gun fire. For 8 hours, the battlefield becomes a single roaring cauldron. Shells burst so thickly that the sun disappears. Burning tanks collide and explode together. Crews who bail out are crushed beneath tracks of both sides. By late afternoon, the SS divisions have shot their way forward another 6 kilometers, but at a price no one anticipated. The Leibstandard alone loses 85 of its 99 tanks. Das Reich and Totenkopf are reduced to handfuls of runners. Across the smoking plain lie the shattered hulks of almost 600 T-34s, yet fresh Soviet brigades are already moving up to replace them. That evening, in his headquarters at Steinlager Tomarovka, Generalfeldmarschall Erich von Manstein receives the final casualty returns. He stares at the map for a long time, then quietly tells his chief of staff, General Busa, "Citadel is over." Hitler formally cancels the offensive 4 days later, but the truth is that July 12 has already decided it. The Wehrmacht will never again mount a strategic offensive on the Eastern Front. The T-34, once dismissed as a crude peasant tank, a relic of 1941, has returned in numbers no German planner thought possible. 2,000 of them appeared where intelligence swore there could be no more than a few hundred. They were crewed by men who had learned war the hardest way possible, and driven by a nation that had moved its factories beyond the Urals, turned schoolgirls into welders, and kept building even while Leningrad starved. The myth of German invincibility, already cracked at Stalingrad, shatters completely in the furnace south of Prokhorovka. When the dust finally settles and the crows return to the wrecked hulks that litter the Kursk salient for kilometers in every direction, the score is grim but unmistakable. The Red Army has lost over 6,000 tanks in 2 weeks of fighting, yet it ends the battle stronger than it began. The Wehrmacht has lost fewer than 700 irreplaceable machines, crewed by irreplaceable veterans, and will never regain the initiative. The road to Berlin has opened, and the sound that echoes along it is no longer the confident growl of Maybach engines, but the relentless diesel heartbeat of the T-34.